Cool. Well, thanks everyone for coming out and for braving the vicious storm that's outside. About 70 RSVPs, but I guess people are afraid when it rains in California. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. So this is the 6th meetup we've had. Every other month we'll do another one in February, I guess. And my name is David Heck, founder of Cloudium. We do data analytics for Salesforce, inside of Salesforce, dashboard and stuff. I got a couple of apps I'm trying to make it go up. And our sponsor tonight and presenter is SiSense. So we have Bruno, and they're a big data analytics company for the big data analytics company. Is that the slogan?
That's the idea, yeah. We're the only one.
The only one.
It's a new concept, nobody's heard about it.
But and they're also sponsoring, so thank you very much for taking away the room.
Well, thanks for having me to make sure that you can hear me in the back. You know, the second time making that joke. All right, so it's going to be pretty informal. I'm going to go through a set of slides, and then we'll go straight into the product, because I'm guessing a lot of you guys are interested in seeing how the beast works. It's what we call a product. Informally. But before, I'm just going to go. Now, you're going to see something that's interesting here is when we came in here, this office doesn't have VGA, which is the main projection standard for projecting this problem. And given that my software runs on PCs, I had to come across a workaround, which I'll have you guess at the end of the presentation how I made this happen. But in any case, the problem we're talking about today is Salesforce Analytics, and many of you have tried to take a bite of the analytics. This is me dressed up as a Cookie Monster trying to buy software at the booth, at the Dreamforce booth. And you know, if you talk to people, you know, the word on the street is like, yeah, it's super easy to do analytics on Salesforce, right? It's really the easiest thing on the planet, and the truth is, not really. Why is, well, the first reason is if you try to just mash up data, because I'm sure the majority of your data is not in just Salesforce, it's a problem. I don't have utilities for that. If you try to do any kind of historical analysis, then it's another problem, because you don't have a way of storing historical data, so you can't do historical snapshots. And even inside Salesforce, there might be things that you want to analyze today that don't come out of the box, like relationship to my leads and my opportunities. Today, those are two objects that don't talk to each other. Inside Salesforce, what do you do? Well, that's what we're here for. Our mission is big data analytics for everyone. I'm Bruno Aziza, VP Marketing of SiSense. I tend to talk very fast. I don't know if it's a French thing. We have a French person there in the camera, but we tend to go very fast. So I'm going to be going very fast, but if you can't understand something, just send me an email. My last name is forward backwards the same way. Very easy, even if you're drunk. You will find me on the internet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's early.
All right, so most of the time, when you hear this, you can hear this. It is mission impossible to do analytics with Salesforce and other data sources. That's why our mission tonight, if you're willing to accept it, we're going to go into a set of data trying to understand traffic from Google, try to correlate sources, Salesforce, Google Analytics, and we're going to try and neutralize waste. We'll have waste in our companies, and this is going to be what you look like tonight. What are you going to have to do? Very simple. Mash up two data sources, Salesforce.com, Google Analytics, and I'll throw in some spreadsheets as well, some Google spreadsheets, just to see how impossible this thing is. Your enemies, you're going to have some enemies, okay? The first one is the scientist. Very expensive employee, there are very few of them. He's cool, he's very smart, but you can't understand half of what he's talking about. So you don't want to involve the scientist. The other thing you want to avoid is the code. Code is cool, it's nice, but very difficult to reuse, very expensive, sometimes rely on only one person, unless they put a lot of annotations like this one, so you don't want to take that risk. And finally, you don't want to buy any new hardware. So, typical situation, right? We don't have the scientists, we don't want to buy the code, we don't want to upgrade. There's one last thing too, not ideal conditions. You might be suspended, but if you're not, you can't rely on IT, you're not a developer, your company's survival is at stake. Something's missing in the phone there. And we have less than 20 minutes because the second presenter will kick me out. Luckily for you, and this is not a commercial, You have everything you need in one box. That's the SiSense Business Intelligence Business Analytics Solution. Much acclaimed this last week. We got 3 features on Forbes to Wall Street that you've heard of us. What's in the box? 3 things. The database, high performance database, I'll give you the details. Point and click analytics and a web dashboard. You're not too late, but you're picking up the tab. Sorry, yeah, you're the last person. So in this package, I said there are 3 things. The first thing, I'm going to turn down the volume, that we offer, again, it's in the same box, is what we call the ElastiCube. I'll show you how this works. It's the high performance analytical database. There's no other concept of databases. This one is optimized for analytics. What does that mean? Compression, performance, these are the things that we focus on. And we also focus on one thing that everybody's going to love, which is the ability of bringing data without having to write code. Not very commonly found. The second thing we offer is, on top of this database, we have great visualization tools. So add-on visualization tools. Again, the training, good news for you guys, you've already taken the training, because if you know Excel, you're going to be able to develop great applications just like what I'm going to show you. And then finally, once you have the analysis, you want to share that on the web. That's an application we call that Prism Web. Are you guys ready? Excited? Yes. All right. The video doesn't catch just your passion just yet, but there's one last thing. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. we have this great webcast on marketing analytics. So if you wanna take it, you just go to Data Rockstar and you'll be able to get an hour worth of how you build great marketing analytics. And this Friday you should come out and party with us. We're going to the startup party of San Francisco. We're one of the few companies to make it to this great party. 800 people at 8 p.m. and we're going to be there. All right, seriously, there's one last thing, and then after that I will start. Everything I'm going to show you, you can do at home. There's no risk or anything like that. You just go, and these slides will be made available on SlideShare. You can go download the files. You can download the software. Software is available for free, fully functional for 30 days, so you guys can play with that stuff. And we've also provisioned a set of files that you can just straight download. That's your data sample, and you can do most of what I'm going to show you today. Before I get started, let's make sure that we're understanding the end result of what we're trying to get to. This is something, we're trying to design something like this. Web-based, interactive, analytics, inside the shell of my Salesforce application. Alright, I'm going to guess everybody's ready, so let's get started. Before I do get started, are there any questions, worries, things that you are afraid of might happen in this presentation, things I shouldn't bring up? Kind of stuff? Childhood memories? Okay. All right. So, I'm going to do 3 features, and I'm going to take 7 minutes for each. That's the challenge. Okay? So the first feature. So I talked about this idea of building a database. Typically building a database, what does that mean? You get a big box like this, maybe, and you got a bunch of code. Well, in our case, what you're looking at here is what we call the ElastiCube. It's a user-friendly environment where basically you can get started here, and you can type in, okay, I want Salesforce.com. Boom. Now I've essentially created the environment in which I'm going to mash up my data. It doesn't look too scary. It's entirely white. It's a new concept. But now if I want to go and connect to my data sources, what do? I press the plus button, and I can see that we have native connectivities to very common data sources. Any database you can think of, the SQL Server you can see here, you got Excel you can see, and then you've got Salesforce here, which is the data source we want to connect to. Now again, if I click on that, you're going to say, okay, a bunch of code. No, not a bunch of code. Actually, I just put in my Salesforce.com credentials. Here I've blurred the security token. I'm not going to give you the security because it's very easy to copy it, so these things are impossible to read. But in any case, you know how to get the security token. Once you have that, you can just go take a look at your tables. Now, when we're using the API, we can see just about anything the API gives you today, custom tables, custom fields. We can see just about anything that you need to do some basic reporting on Salesforce. I'm going to pick these tables. I pick the account table. You can see if you don't know what's in the table, you get a preview if you want to as well. I'm going to pick a bunch of tables, so campaign, leads, opportunities, the whole thing, okay? That's it. That was the fastest way any tool in the world could get data out of Salesforce. And actually, I'm kind of serious. I'm thinking about getting a world record because not only did I get the data, I got the structure, and I got the metadata. Because these joins between the tables, I didn't put that in. The tool understood it. So what happens when the API comes through, we read the relationship between the tables, and we enforce that relationship for you. So in an example like this one, for instance, we were able to infer that opportunity ID corresponds to the lead converted opportunity ID. Now, I don't know if you've read the tables on Salesforce.com. There's a lot of different IDs. You can make a lot of mistakes. But here we look at the name, we look at the type, and we infer basically what's going on. Now, if you don't like this join, you can also enforce it yourself. So you can go delete the join. It's totally an open thing. As I said earlier, we have visibility on custom fields. So here, this is something we, as budget authority, need and time frame. That's what BOM stands for. So we put that into our app, as you're looking at my data structure right now. And so you can see it here. There's also a bunch of things that we do inside the ElastiCube that will help you as a non-database administrator. When we look at types, the data types, we're going to aggregate data so it makes it easier for you to do some reporting on it. Because the reason we're building this is not just an OLTP database. We're building this so we can do some quick analytics on top of the data. So we're optimizing everything for analytics. So in the case of text, for instance, we're creating aggregations like count duplicates. In the case of float, we're creating a set of sums, average, and so forth. In the case of dates, we're creating now days, we're breaking it by quarter, breaking it, those typical things that you want to do, but you typically do after somebody's handed you the database. So these things, we make them as easy as we can. We also make it easy for you to duplicate tables, to get rid of tables. We also make it easy for you as an administrator to make a table visible or not. So sometimes, as a data person, you want to work with the table, but you don't want the reporting guys to actually get access to the data. So we make it visible or invisible here. And we also allow you to do a bunch of other things that most of the tools can't allow you to do. Like for instance, here you can see close date. I don't want close date. I want the week. I want the week number. Well, I don't have that inside Salesforce. So what do? Well, I guess I could call a developer. But in our case, you just add a custom field. So I go in here and I say week of year. I select the fact that it's an integer, it's not text. And now, because I said, okay, it's going to be an integer, it's getting itself ready to build some aggregations. I'm going to edit that. Now, this is the scariest part of the demo, so if you have kids, take them away. But we're going to get into code here. 100% SQL compliant. So the platform, the reason why we're so fast, we use a set of technologies like columnar database, we use in-memory, but we also use algebraic language, but we hide that with SQL Server, SQL language. So you can SQL into a database even though it's not the native language that we use. If you're familiar with the other tools, most of the other tools in the market, they'll actually ask you to learn their language. We don't. There are millions of SQL developers out in the world. Most of you probably can write a select query. Why would you need to learn something else? So what we do here is I'll say, okay, I have a set of functions. So I want week of the year. How funny is that there's actually a function for that? It seems like the guy wrote the demo. Anyway, so there's week of the year. I'm going to say, okay, I just want the opportunity close date. And I'm going to close the brackets. I'm going to take a look at the parse the query, make sure, okay, the parse is fine. And that's it. I've got my week of year. How cool is that? All right, so now I've got my Salesforce.com data. But most of you know that that's not the only place where you're going to do some data analysis. You're also going to want to go into other data sources, like let's say, I don't know, Google Analytics. Right, so I've got the same column. I want to merge data from Google Analytics. So I'm not going to show you what my codes are, but I will show you where you can get it. So here I can just log in, allow access, and same thing for the API key if you guys are not familiar with it. But the bottom line is that once you have these codes in, you can now get connectivity to the API. You can bring in just the same way I did the tables earlier with Salesforce. I can do the same thing, and now, boom, all of a sudden, I've got my tables from Google Analytics. So on the right, Google Analytics, on the left, Salesforce. I can see you're highly enthusiastic. All right.
It's the food.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the food. But, so I'm going to, now the problem is the more tables I have, the more data I have. So now what do? Well, we have got tools for that as well. But we say, okay, if you want to join on dates, what are all the fields that have date in them? And now with a simple browser, I could be browsing across hundreds of tables. and I can say, okay, well, show me where this field is. And now I can see create date is in the lead table. And so if I want to join it to something else, it's very easy. I can see, okay, it's here, and the other field I want is somewhere in here in the opportunity table. I can just go in and then grab it, and then now I can join it. But you see it's red, because it doesn't let the humans make mistakes either. See, this is when the robots are taking over. It realizes, okay, maybe it has the same name, but it really shouldn't join with that. It should join with something else. So then as I'm browsing within, I'm realizing, okay, that's the right one. So we kind of try and enforce a couple of things. One, make it super easy for people to get their hands on the data, because we realize today, anybody doing analytics, they're spending 80% of their time munging with the data, and then their boss shows up and like, why do I not have the analysis? Well, because your data is screwed up. So we're trying to make the data piece as fast as we can. And we also try to prevent errors, or we're trying to prevent the basic maintenance things that typical data people typically do, like building indexes or screwing up joins or any of these things. Okay, so now I've got my tables. I'm just going to, have fun, I'm going to add another data source, a Google spreadsheet. So say I want my Salesforce.com data, I want to tie that to my leads in Google Analytics, and I've done my AdWords data into a spreadsheet. Common scenario, sometimes even people that use Salesforce might use quota, for instance. They might have a quota table that is not in Salesforce, that is in an Excel spreadsheet, maybe a Google spreadsheet. Probably not a Google spreadsheet because quota is probably secure. But in any case, they have this other data source that's kind of not out there, not maintained. So here I'm able to connect to my, you can see here, this is my corporate login, right? So I connect to it, I can pull up, and I can say, okay, just give me AdWords, and that's it. Right, so now the cool thing about the Google spreadsheet connectivity is that we see your tabs as tables. So you can pick any tab and build it as a separate table. It's really cool. But in this case, I'm just going to pick my campaign table. In case I don't remember what's in my Google spreadsheet, I can look at it before I import it, and I'm just going to add it. There you go. I can decide again. I'm going to join it to this table, and once I do that, I've got my join here, you can see. So, bottom line, Salesforce.com, Google Analytics, and AdWords. So now that I have this data, I'm going to prepare my data for analysis. That process typically is an 18-month process for most people, right? So in our case, it's like a 30-second process. That's it. So hopefully, I don't know if that was 7 minutes, I wasn't looking at the clock, but that's how we built an analytical database. Most people we talk to, this is $150,000, 18 months. And we did it in 7 minutes, and it just cost us food. So, any questions? Maybe I'll stop here and see if that was clear. Is there something that I can't believe what just happened, or no?
How do you understand what exactly the activation is?
So what I just did?
Yeah.
So
you have some knowledge, or?
Oh, how do you get trained to do what I just did?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a full user documentation. Every customer gets free access to our training. Every week we have 2-hour sessions on Wednesdays for training. We don't have, like, most of our competitions has big books like that. That's a warning sign for us. Like, okay, if you have a book like that, there's a problem. And so typically, Shuma just got started with the, I don't know, you can probably tell them how quickly.
Actually, it's not easy. It took me 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and in 2 weeks I was building very complex dashboards.
Yeah. That's the idea. That's why I called it the beast earlier, is really we want to remove all the complexity that typically is associated to data work. All right, so now I've got my analytical database. I've got massive, I've got 500,000 rows here, right? Because it's 3 data sources, and it's kind of complex because the queries are going to have to go across not obvious joins, data sources that really have not talked to each other. But I'm still going to make it fun. So this is BI Studio. It's a quick tour. You can see my tables here. On the right here, you've got my canvas. On the left, you've got what we call our widgets. We have all types of widgets. People are crazy these days with visualization. We love visualization as long as the data work is easy, because great visualization on crappy data is still crappy data. But if you wanted gauges, if you wanted traffic lights, if you want just about anything, we even have things like refresh sheet, like functions that we created as an object, because people need them, like an input field or any of these things. So, and I'll show you how we use that a little bit later. But in this first case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly add my first widget. And you can see the same things that you see on the right, on the left here. When I right click, I can now get all my widgets. And so a simple widget for us, we're going to say is an image. And so I'm just going to come in here. Since I love you guys, I'm going to pick the widgets of this. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to reload a different picture. I'm going to load a picture of one of our tattoos. We have tattoos for the company, and I think I have a few if you want some. So it looks nice. I'm going to move a few things, but in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building my first simple graph. Okay, so I've got my line chart here. Make it a little bigger. Okay, and I'm going to build my first view. So what's in my first view? Very difficult to find data across my data tables. So, you know, what we did, the same thing about searching through the ElastiCube, you could search through BI Studio as well. So if you have 100,000 fields, you can go in and type in here traffic, and now all of a sudden I got my traffic data and I can pull in my days here. This is very similar to the concept of Excel when you do pivot tables, and you can bring your entities across the tables. So what I'm going to do here, the end result is going to be traffic by days from Google Analytics. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to type in visits, because that's what I want. I want visits, aggregations, there you go. And you notice here, when I brought in visits, it gave me the choice, you want to sum, you want to count, what do you want? Because it understands, okay, visit is not a text field, it's an integer. So I have for you a set of things that have been pre-calculated. So when you bring it in, it's super easy. Again, you know, here, I've got my view, which is great, but it's not everything I want. I want to be able to see this data according to different things. Is it CPC? Is it non-CPC data? You know, typical types of things. So I'm going to search for medium, and in medium, I'm just going to drag my medium over, and now I can filter based on my medium. Right, so I can say, okay, just bring me CPC data if I wanted to. I can copy that if I want to. I can resize that. I can make this a multi-selector. So I can say, you know, it's not just CPC, it's going to be CPC and a bunch of other things. And now I've got the aggregation. So you can see now, you know, those are things that typically you wouldn't be able to do in Google Analytics, at least not like that. I'm going to note that, and so I'm going to call this medium 1. You'll see it's relevant in a little bit because this is my first medium view of this data. And I'm going to copy that and put it here, and then this guy, I'm going to rename it and then call it medium 2, because what really I want to see is side-by-side CPC and non-CPC data. Can't do that in Google Analytics. I mean, we tried. And I'm sure you can try. I'm sure somebody here is competing against Google Analytics. Hopefully you guys can do it, because they can't. And so how did we work around that? Well, so what we did is we said, okay, we've got two ways of slicing this data, and I'm going to create a simple measure that says, look, what I want is my visits. Basically here what I'm showing you is I'm creating a formula for my visits. It's in here. And this is my formula bar. And remember how I called medium 1 and medium 2? I'm going to say this is my visit for medium 1. Now, a couple of things happen here. It's actually kind of magical to me, and you didn't see them. But earlier, you see this little green bar here? This is the enemy of any data guy, is that you're writing a formula, you're super proud of yourself, you're committing it, you're loading it into a repository, you're dragging it, and it doesn't work. Because you forgot to parse the formula. Well, we do that for you. So earlier, you know, it was red because the formula wasn't complete. Now it's complete and understands, okay, this will parse. It's green here. So I don't need to run that. I know it's going to run. And I can name it med1. Great. I can redo the same thing if I wanted to. I can clone my measure if I wanted to. So I've got med1 here. I've added it to my view, but I'm just going to get rid of the other one I have. And I'm going to clone the existing one I have. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that. And I am going to edit that. I'm going to call it med2. And in this case, what I will do is I'll edit the formula. You see here, and I'm going to type 2. So now it's med 2. So I have a medium 1 and a medium 2. What this allows me to do is very simple. I'm going to add this here and I update that. And now I can choose which is what. See what just happened here? That's pretty cool. Gives me a view of things that I don't have anywhere else. I can go in and edit my chart if I wanted to. We have like 100,000 types of different charts. You can do a line, you can do anything you want here. What's cool about it too is that I can decide different types of visualizations based on different types of things. So like for this guy, I'm just going to say spline, and I'm going to make it a little bigger. Let's see, I'm going to change the color, and here's another thing that I really like about it. So you can see one line is a line, and the other one is a stock bar like that. I'm going to change the color by saying, I don't know what color I want, but I've seen something here, I want this blue. How often does that happen? What's the code of this blue? Well, I don't need to know. I just pick it. Kind of cool. I like that. If you're colorblind, it doesn't matter to you, but if you like it,
Actually, it does matter because that's when it's really hard.
Yeah. So you can see the logo. I'm like, I like that. And so thank you. I swear he's not paid to be here. And so I'm going to do the same thing on this one and take the screen. And since I like you guys, I'm going to do this color here. And now all of a sudden, which is really cool for our customers, because we have customers of all types, and one of the big adoption things and the visualizations they have is they don't feel very personal, and they'll just pick different colors based on their logos, which makes the visualizations very unique for them. All right, so good looking graph here. Let's see, we're going to add a couple of things. So I'm going to add a date picker, and my date picker, I'm going to add days. Okay. And so now I can pick just about anything I want. March, apply it, boom. That's how easy it is to build a great visualization off of one data source. That's feature number 2. I'm about to go to feature number 3, which is now mashing up data across Salesforce, AdWords, my spreadsheet, and Google Analytics. I just wanted to build a good base here on a very simple data source so you guys know what I'm about to do. Any questions? Is it scary, familiar? People already want to buy it? Anything?
How much?
See, this is Israeli, we're an Israeli-based company. This is the first question. In most Israeli companies, we answer with another question. Now, seriously, any questions though? Don't ever give the number first. All right, so I'm going to assume no question. All right, so this second sheet I'm going to call it 360 because we're just looking at 360 view. I like this look, right? Okay, so this is a Windows application. What that means, and I know there's some Microsoft fans in the room, and the Windows code base what's great is that you cut and paste. You can do things that you couldn't possibly do in some other languages or some web apps. So basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, and boom, I've copied it to the next step. That's really, to me, that's really quite amazing actually, because I'm not just bringing the object, I'm also bringing the logic. Now the logic is shared with this client, but still, it's quite interesting. I'm going to get rid of this, and then this one, I'm going to do another photo just so you guys are not bored. Okay. You can see this, there was a line here that allows me to align objects, which is really cool. That wasn't a question. No. All right. All right, so what am I doing next? I'm going to bring in my months. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to first just see if it works. I'm going to take a look at my conversions and my opportunities. All right, because those conversions is all the way at the beginning of the funnel and opportunities all the way at the end. Let's see if I can browse some of that data. So I'm bringing my remember when we joined the table, we joined them on a date field. So I'm going to say, okay, in the same month, what are you seeing across these two tables? And I'm going to do a rectangular scale. So I'm going to put it here, and I'm copying it. See, this is the other advantage of copying and pasting, is that you can take the same object and just kind of play with it. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to put in some data in that. Where is it? Okay, I'm going to bring in my conversions. It knows it's a sum. Awesome. And I'm going to call this conversions. Perfect. Now, you see that the rectangular was kind of bland, right? There's no colors in it. And I guess I could just think about what would be the thresholds. But remember, we're the software that's against thinking, right? So we do the thinking for you. So I'll tell you what the thresholds are. Just let me do them for you. So we look at the data and we just establish, we have a 2 range, you have a 3 range, whatever you have, we can give that to you. So this one, I don't like it as much, so I'm just going to copy this one and reuse it. Which is great because now I just reuse the logic. All I have to do is change the object. So instead of my conversions, I'm going to take now my opportunities, I'm going to remove this guy. And I'll take my ID again. When I put my ID, it tells me, okay, now it's an ID. So you can't do a sum on an ID. What do you want? You want to count the duplicates or you want to count the uniques? And just because I'm in sales, I'm going to count the duplicates, so I get double credit. And I'm going to call this the opportunities. Here, I'm going to make sure that this object here is affected by this filter. Because right now, we have this logic that we call the global scope, where any filter affects all the objects you put in this canvas. But remember, what I want to do is compare one against the other. And so it's very simple, because if I put my pointer on this, it tells me, oh, that's what's affecting. Okay, great. And this one's affecting that one, so I'm going to pick the first one. I'll do the same thing on that. And now I've got filters for this and filters for that. So now I can see August, number of conversions. I can see October, number of opportunities. Kind of cool. Not very easy to do if you think about it. You have to think about it. Okay. Any questions so far before I move to the next thing? Because this is actually not a very logical thing to do in the report.
How much?
Somebody said they want to buy it.
Subscription?
2 customers already.
Come see me.
Yes, come talk to Shuma. You've got 2 very hot leads. Okay. So let me do this. On this one, I am going to look at conversions. Okay. And I'm going to take my lead. So now what I'm building is essentially I'm building my count duplicates again. I'm building my end-to-end view basically of I'm going to call this my leads. So I've got the beginning of the funnel here in the conversion, and I've got the end of the funnel here in opportunities. I want to see from the beginning leads, conversions, accounts, opportunities, which is what all of us want to see. However, it's very difficult to do because that's 3 different systems. So I got my conversions, my leads, title, my month already. I'm going to go into my opportunities, bring my opportunities here, count my dupes, and now I can update that. I'm going to add the IDs for the accounts. Again, I'm counting duplicates, and there you go. I've got now my data. I'm going to rename that. There you go. So, did you see what just happened here when I changed the scope? Where I had just 3 months, and now all of a sudden I've got all the months. By default, what we tried to do is we tried to anticipate what you're about to do. And a big part of the software, a lot of it is about making your job easier and easier as you go. So an example is most analytics tools, the more you query them, the more stress you put at the analytical layer, and the slower the queries get you. With us, the opposite is true. The more you query, the faster it is. Because when you query, when Shuma queries and I query, I look at the query, I look at the algebra of the query, and I try to optimize the query after that based on his algebra. And so we'll see queries against a terabyte. The first one will eat 10 seconds. The next one will eat 2 seconds. Because as humans, we ask very similar questions that machines can optimize, and most software is not written like that. Most software reruns the code every time, and we're not like that. So in this case here, the reason why I had only 3 months is because remember that the last filter was just going after these 3 months. So it gave me in the next view, it said, oh, you want the same 3 months. Now, I just unlocked that to say, no, just give me everything. And you can see the speed at which it's displaying everything for me. Now, I can, however, filter things in a very natural manner. So I could say, you know what, there's a bunch of areas here that don't have any data. I'm going to say, just give me 3 months, and I'm going to apply that. And when I update my table, now I've got 3 months worth of data, which, as you can see, is lightning fast. So I'm going to rename this thing. Okay. All right. So now I renamed my tables. They are all nice, but what I really wanted to remember earlier were about identifying traffic. So I think we understood the traffic. Now we want to find waste. What's the cost of my leads? How much is this whole process costing me? It's great that you've got 2 people here that want to buy software, but how much money did I spend getting to the marketing budget? So I'm going to put in here my cost. You can see it here, and I'm going to refresh that. Now I've got my cost. I can format this cost, and now all of a sudden I've got my dollar cost here. And I'm going to take that cost and I'm going to divide it. You see here? See what happens? So what I'm trying to do now is cost per lead. I got the total cost. Now I want to do cost per conversion. See here, up here, it's red because it's missing something. What is it missing? Well, it's missing my lead count. So I'm going to add my lead count. Okay. And let's format this guy as well. There you go. There you go. So now I got my cost per lead. So you can see leads, conversions, accounts, opportunities, cost, and cost per lead. I just did it without telling you, but I added it to the repository. What happens is, most of what I'm doing here is resident to this file. But if I add it to the repository, it can be reused just about anywhere. And so later on, if I build a different dashboard, a different report, now this logic store somewhere. Okay? I'm going to reorganize this. I'm trying to speed up because I think I'm running out of time. Right? Okay. So let me get to the results. What I want to show you here is basically the contribution for opportunities and per conversion. So a problem that typical people have is that, great, I know my conversion traffic, great, I know my opportunity traffic, but out of the last this quarter or the last 3 months, how much do they contribute to each other? So in this case, for instance, November contributed 7% of my total conversion. Here, November was 28% of my entire, these 3 month opportunities. I did that without actually having to type up any formulas. Because as we build the aggregations based on the data you have, we also build ahead formulas for you. So all you need to do is say, yeah, I want growth period over period. Well, we understand all of those. We just computed the data for you. In addition to that, when I have a table like that, I can copy the table, and I can get rid of objects inside that table. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to create a link table. And that link table is basically going to be exactly what I have in that table. In the, this link chart is the same thing as what I have in that table. I'm going to hide that guy, and make it a little bigger. Now, often when you do pretty charts like that, you're like, well, I'm not super happy about the way this looks, especially when I'm going to share this with the web. So I'm going to change that to a different type. Changing to a different chart type is typically a nightmare, most tools. Not with us. That's it. 3 clicks. So now I've got my great traffic view, and I've got my great 360 view, and now I want to share it on the web. So now I've got half a step to go to before I'm done with the demo. So let me stop, because I'm going to show you the web in just a minute. Everything makes sense so far? Looking good? Okay. So the problem I'm trying to solve next is that I want now to share this analytic on the web, because not everybody's got a Windows machine or a Mac or whatever, and they want to see them on their device. And even worse, they want to see it inside Salesforce. Okay, so I'm just publishing this. You can see it super fast. And boom, now I've got it in Explorer. And it's interactive, right? It's 100% interactive, and that's cool. That's what's great about it. I can use the filters, and I can do just whatever I want. I can print it if I want to. I'm not going to print it, but I can see both tabs as well, and everything's interactive. The cool thing about it is even the objects that are hidden, remember I had a table hidden behind this thing? It's still exported. And I can see that by editing, and it's behind here. Now the editing function in the web is really cool, especially if you've got Salesforce.com users, because we pass the parameters, and any editing you do in the web is unique to the user. So as an administrator, I can say, okay, this is the standard dashboard, but you as a user, you're like, I don't like this photo, you put it there, I don't know, for some reason, maybe you don't like red. You can get rid of that, and it only applies to you, which is really kind of cool. We'll persist that. So in this case, I'm going to move my photos, and I'm going to still move that up. Boom. So now, anytime Bruno logs in, Bruno sees this logo on the left. Anytime somebody else logs in, they see the logo on the right. Just kind of.
Can I change filters on this? Can I say like, I want to now look at October through December?
Yeah,
Do
you
that?
can change just about anything. Yeah.
Can I do it from
There are-
this view?
There are things, yeah, you can do it here. There are things you cannot do, like calculated sets or anything like that. Like
Sure.
if I haven't built an object for you, don't have
Sure,
access
sure,
to
sure.
it. But moving things, getting rid of filters, you can do quite a few things actually. You can also share this, which I think is a very cool function. I can send that to myself. Now, a couple of things. If I email that to myself, I will have access to it as long as I'm on an authorized user, unless I make this public. And if I make this public, now this URL is visible. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that I can copy this into any browser, and boom, now you can see it. It's not committed anywhere. It's a public URL. But here it's on my machine, but you can see the idea. The benefit of that, of course, is that now, since I've got everything on the web, I can now see this in my Salesforce.com instance. See? And again, it's 100% interactive. It's the same thing that you saw earlier. The difference here is now it's a shell, basically, inside Salesforce.
To get it in Salesforce, you have to make it public as well.
No. The example of making it public is if I wanted to share a widget or I wanted to share a specific URL. To make it available inside Salesforce is a set of steps. So you add the tab and you add the URL. And then through that URL, we enforce security. So maybe a single sign-on through Salesforce, or maybe you have to log into the system. It's really up to the administrator how they want to deploy it. And that's it.
So when you publish it, I can use any device? Where-
Yeah. Yeah, the whole interface here is HTML5 and JavaScript. So, you know, it works on most devices. Yeah. Any questions? Was I on time? Was I think I might have been over. I haven't been keeping track of time.
That was
but,
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
well, thank you guys, and if you need us, we're going to be here.
So thanks for the great demo, Bruno. We SiSense has got a helicopter doing business cards last minute. Anybody else? You want to do the honors or Amelia, you want to do the honors?
Amelia is probably the best.
It's not
Wait, can I put mine?
What's the
You're
present?
not eligible to win.
Yeah.
You know, I had like 40 of those sitting by my desk.
40. What's in it? What's in the box?
That's a helicopter.
Alright.
A what?
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Alright. Cool. So next we have Mark Hoffman, is the CEO of Import2. Import2 is a data migration service.